had kind of the election determined, which is a good feeling for many people, if nothing else, just the uncertainty being gone. You know, it's hard to make plans. It's hard to figure out what to do next, as I'm sure you know, when the political scene was so up in the air. So it's nice that we've got a foundation we can start from and we can start to move towards. You know, and one of the things that I really loved about the outcome, let's say, of what happened, of our whole political system, is that it got people involved and engaged again. You know, in the 80s, it was all about apathy and nobody was involved. In this election, more people, you know, than ever in history voted. And that was a really good thing. And so what it tells me is that we're in a position of wanting to heal. And so if you're in a position of wanting to heal, which I've been most of my life, then you're in the right place. So this morning, I was reading my email and I get meditations, and there was a little story. And there was a story about a monk who decided to go meditate alone. So he took a boat out into the middle of the lake. And after a few hours of his eyes closed and meditating, what happened was he felt something hit his boat. And he got very angry even before he opened his eyes. And he opened his eyes, he looked out, and he saw that the boat was empty. There was a boat that hit him that was empty. And he realized that nobody was making him feel angry, that the anger was inside himself. And that was the realization. So when we start to make the shift from going, you made me angry, or you hurt me, or you frustrated me, that leaves us in a very helpless position. Of course you're going to feel helpless. Of course you're going to feel out of control when we are triggered, when we feel like someone else in our life is pushing our buttons or poking us, you know, just because they're struggling or they've got issues or they're narcissists. But in reality, we're finding out the science behind it. We're finding out the body-mind science. And I've loved it my whole life. I've been healing my whole life. I've been a healer my whole life. It's totally my personality. And I used to study all the shamanic, you know, all the cultural medicines, Africa, Australia, and Asia, and all the North Native American and South Native American traditions. And they were great tools, but my trauma was still around. I'd still get angry. I'd still feel hurt. I'd still feel hijacked and overwhelmed. And all I could do was kind of hide, you know, because I didn't want to take it out on anybody. And what happened is I got sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker because there was no place for all that stress to go. So I was between a rock and a hard place. I had everybody triggering me. I was going to be triggered more and more and more and more as time went by. And I was getting sick as a result of trying to control it, trying to manage and handle it. The latest science says you don't have to do it that way. And it also integrates all of those beautiful spiritual medicines that you've been studying, all the tools, all the strategies. It includes all of those things. You don't have to learn a new way. It's not like in the school system where every year, every 2 years, there's a new test that has to be taught to, or a new format that has to be followed, or new math. It's nothing like that. It actually, the science encompasses all of the Native American, shamanic, Asian medicine, spiritual, cultural medicines that are out there. And what it talks about is how when we feel helpless about something, when something happens to us and it's unexpected and we feel helpless and we don't have a chance to process it through, maybe we're a child, or maybe it's a dangerous situation, or maybe we're just surrounded by people who are narcissists, who are more self-absorbed than they are able to really care about what's going on with you. What happens is your body puts a bookmark. It says, you know what, we've got all this stress, we've got all this tension, we've got all this feeling of helplessness, and we need to sort through this. We need to figure this out. And so what they do is it puts a bookmark in your brain, waiting for you to come back and start sorting through. But the problem is nobody knew how to really get rid of those bookmarks, you know? I mean, they said, be a Buddhist. They said, study shamanic medicine. They said, you know, do ayahuasca. They said, chant and dance around the fire and be naked under the moon and do, you know, and do things like that. And those are all effective, but the reason they weren't working is because they weren't working hand in hand with what we know about how the body works, about how to get rid of these bookmarks. The biggest mistake that everybody makes, and I don't know if we were taught this or we just didn't know, is that when one of those bookmarks are pushed, when those buttons are pushed by something outside of ourselves, whether it's real or imagined, what happens is that that bookmark flares up and it makes you remember and feel all of the things that you felt in the past, especially when you were a kid. And when you're a kid, your emotions are huge. They're off the charts. You have no ability, no insight, no understanding to process through them. And so every time that somebody pushes that little bookmark by something they say or how they look, or just an environment, or maybe because it's getting closer to the holidays. I know I used to always get angry around the holidays because I had so many triggers, so many markers around that. And we thought we had to just suck it up and hope for the best and control ourselves and keep yourself less stressed and do more and distract ourselves. It's really kind of a weird cycle, isn't it? We end up eating more, we end up doing more, making ourselves crazy and making ourselves sick. But in reality, we don't have to suffer through those triggers anymore. We used to trigger, wait it out, hope things would change, try to control the other person, try to stop them from doing what they're doing, try to stop them from being crazy. And we all know that narcissists, high-level narcissists, are vicious. They're really not nice people, high-level narcissists. So like Trump, he would be considered a high-level narcissist. And there's a lot of them running around. And a lot of them are with successful women. So if you're a successful woman, a powerful woman, a woman who's made something of herself, a woman who has self-confidence, then you've probably also had a lot of narcissists in your life because they kind of encourage and push you to work harder, to do more, to be better. And then you realize, hey, I'm actually kind of successful with this stuff. So you can thank a narcissist in one way or another. But irregardless, when you're triggered, you used to have to suffer through it and wonder what you should do and how you're going to get through it. And in reality, they're finding you can flip your nervous system from fight or flight back into that higher self. That higher self they talk about in all those spiritual texts, in all those 12-step programs, in all those, wise gurus, know thyself, love more, be more. They never told you how to get that. And so a lot of women ended up feeling like they were suffering, feeling like they were triggered and there was nothing they could do. And they had to sit there trying to be nicer and kinder and more amazing and more wonderful and more empathic. And it just doesn't work. So here's the key. When you get angry, hurt, frustrated, or stressed, when you have a negative thought that says, I'm no good, that says, I'll never do this, the first thing you need to do, and I make mine a rule. Mine is a rule for myself. If I notice any of those things, I do one thing to get rid of that bookmark, that trauma in my brain. Anything that makes you feel good, that brings you back to being grounded. Maybe it's yoga. Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's going for a walk in the woods. Maybe it's, the cool tools that I use, which take like 60 to 90 seconds to flip you back into a good space. But the key is not waiting. The key is as soon as you get upset, don't feel helpless to it. Don't let yourself feel hijacked. I like it, especially when I'm angry. If something makes me angry, that's my cue. I need to do something to get my nervous system settled again. Now, most people, as I said, they wait. They wait until they feel better. They don't do the yoga when they don't feel good because they don't have time because they're too stressed and it wouldn't feel good. They don't go for the walk because there's too much to do and I can barely move because I feel so heavy and depressed. I understand that. So instead of waiting, if you start breaking that pain pattern, if you start short-circuiting that circuit that says, oh no, I'm in danger, I'm helpless, I can't do anything, even if a narcissist is keying your car, even if they're showing you photos of their, of somebody else that they're sleeping with, even if they're sending you rage texts about how you're no good and you'll never be anything anyways, even if they're doing all that, that hurt and that anger is inside of you. And when you learn to not tolerate that hurt and anger inside yourself, but instead pause and go do something that makes you feel good. Don't even fight back. Don't even start swinging. Don't even feel like you need to defend. Just pause, maybe even go to the bathroom, maybe even get a snack, maybe even just use your spidey senses and notice that, uh-oh, this might not be a good idea, because you can feel the energy around you because you're empathic. If you know these things, don't walk into it. Instead, pause and do anything that makes you feel good. Don't go down the rabbit hole. Don't walk on eggshells. Don't try to figure it out, because that's what we do, right? We go into our head and we obsess and we go around and round, but you're not going to figure it out that way. Because when you're triggered, all you can think about is how you feel. And your brain will obsess and gnaw and be paranoid around the same 2 or 3 or 4 things. You're not going to solve the problem that way. The only way you're going to solve the problem is by getting your nervous system flipped back from fight or flight into your higher self. That higher self that says, oh yeah, I get it. Oh yeah, it's not about me. Oh yeah, anger's inside of me. There's something I can do about it. That's the message you need to hear. You're not supposed to wait until somebody triggers you. You're supposed to notice when you're already going down that path and do the things that keep you feeling good and get the stress off your body. So what happens when you flip your nervous system from fight or flight to higher self, from sympathetic to parasympathetic? What happens? Well, your body sends calcium through the bookmark in your brain, loosens it up, and lets it be reabsorbed. And so you don't get triggered. It can take a few times. It can take a little bit. But each time it makes the trigger a little bit looser, and then it gets absorbed until you're able to look at someone and say, they're really not talking to me, are they? They're talking to they're talking to their abuser. They're talking to their past. They're talking to a memory. And it doesn't even upset you anymore, because you know that it's not about you, because you're not feeling helpless to it, because you have managed and controlled your nervous system. So your trigger goes away. What else happens? Well, all those stress chemicals, because let's say you were slapped in the face as a kid, and now anybody who comes up with their hand near your face makes you freak out, makes you get nervous, anxious, feel stressed, right? So what happens when you can't express it is your body stores all that cortisol, all that adrenaline, all that save yourself, I need to rescue myself now. It stores all of that tension around that memory, usually when you were a kid, a lot of times. Stores all that tension in your body. Maybe you get tense shoulders, maybe your jaw clenches, maybe your stomach clenches up, maybe you get asthma attacks and you can't breathe, maybe your hips killing you because you can't walk. That's the result of stress. That's what happens when we keep accumulating all of that cortisol and adrenaline and we don't do anything about it. So when you start bypassing the system, instead of waiting for the whole circle to go around, instead bypass it. Go for the walk now. Listen to the music now. Breathe in the fresh air now. Do it now. Don't wait. What happens is your body releases all of those chemicals. So some people shake. I've totally shaked. You know that quote that says, speak your truth even if your voice shakes? Exactly. That's your body releasing the adrenaline. Even if you sweat and it smells, that's your body detoxing itself. Even if your breath changes for a while and then your breath doesn't smell very good sometimes because your body's detoxing it. Even if your digestion suddenly, opens up or frees up or gets rid of something, or you get nauseous, or these are all things that happen when your body's trying to detox all of that stuff, all of that nasty fight or flight stuff that you've been harboring in your body because you didn't have anything to do with it. So you not only get rid of the gatekeeper, the guard at the gate, which is the trigger in your brain, but you also get rid of all of the toxic, poisonous stress chemicals that are in your brain and in your body. And it's those stress chemicals that when they get triggered make you feel like a little girl, make you go right back, make you hide, make you people please, make you eat more M&Ms, make you work harder. It's those stress chemicals which are causing you to do that. And so when you get them off your system from decades ago, your body gets less stressed. and you're able to use your energy and your focus for things which are healthier. So you go from feeling like, you're all over the place to, oh yeah, I can do this. You go from your freaked out, fight or flight, survive at any cost state, which most of us are in, and you flip back into your, I got this, this is okay. I can handle this, I see the answer. And you do see the answers. Because when you get those stress chemicals off your brain, when you detox them, suddenly it's like you can use your whole brain. Whereas before it was compartmentalized into all these, I used to call them channels. You know, I used to say my brain was like watching cable TV, and you could just turn it to channel 2 or turn it to channel 4. And those were different compartments in my brain. And those compartments were there because of the stress chemicals in my brain. And stress chemicals were there because we had those little bookmarks in our brain. So when you start getting rid of that stuff, your brain starts talking to each other. It starts working with each other. And then it brings on your heart and it brings on your gut. And suddenly you're like this superhuman who can solve all these problems, who can see things that nobody else can see. And you're innovative and you're able to create because you've got this focus. So instead of feeling like you're juggling 20 balls, trying to keep them all in the air, and then you add a narcissist to the mix and they sit there and start punching you emotionally in the face, instead of feeling like, how do I survive this? That's the fight or flight. Instead, you do something to get the triggers, get the old body chemicals off the system, and then when a narcissist comes in and starts punching you in the face emotionally, you stop them. It doesn't bother you. You can think. You don't feel frozen. Your brain isn't numb and you're not standing there like a doe in the headlights. You're actually able to think and be creative and say something back and make good decisions. Because when a narcissist is triggering, when anybody is triggering, it's just like you when you're triggering. The brain doesn't work right. You can't think clearly. You feel overwhelmed. A narcissist is a way bigger bully than you are, way bigger bully than you are. And so they aren't thinking clearly. When you're the one who regulates your system, when you're the one who keeps working on yourself and getting healthy and being in a good place, then suddenly you're able to see a bigger picture and you can see a direction and you can see what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to do it. So I don't care what you do. Maybe you do havening, and all havening is stroking your arms 20 times. That's the basis of havening. Maybe you do the TAT points, the Tapas acupressure points. It's the ones on the forehead that I've talked about. Maybe you do EFT or breath work, but you have to do something, and you have to do it immediately, because the sooner you catch it, you're able to do something about it. If you wait a half an hour, if you wait an hour without starting to unpack, without starting to get rid of these stress chemicals, then you're suffering needlessly, unnecessarily. And yeah, sometimes it takes a while. I was triggered the other day. And when I was triggered, it took me, I don't know, probably about 35, 40 minutes. And then I decided to say something. And I knew exactly what to say. I knew exactly how to say it. And I was able to turn the course of the conversation. So instead of sitting there suffering, thinking, why has this happened to me again? Why? And what can I do about it? I was able to, within about 40, 45 minutes, I was able to get the stress off of my system, see things clearly, get back into alignment, and say the things that I needed to say to create change in my life. So that's kind of what happens. You become empowered because you're not hijacked by your stress anymore. You're able to say the things and be authentic because you're not hiding, because you're so scared. Scared not necessarily because you're weak, but scared because you get hijacked by your own system and you don't know what to do. And you're super successful maybe in other areas of your life, but as soon as you come home or as soon as that narcissist raises an eyebrow, then you're right back to feeling like a little girl. That's just the way that it is. So start cutting it off. Start choosing not to fight back, but instead choosing to get yourself into a good space. And after you do that, then make the decision. Then decide how you want to handle it. But you're never in your smartest, most creative, most innovative mind when you're angry, hurt, frustrated, overwhelmed, or stressed. You just aren't. You're supposed to be in your regulated higher self at least like 80% of the time, and only fight or flight like 20% of the time. That's only for emergencies, but we've pretty much flipped it, haven't we? We've all been in fight or flight 80% of the time and only in our higher self 20% of the time. Well, it's time to change that. So you can change it by pausing and doing something, but you can also change it if you're looking for a lifelong trajectory. Here's the numbers. If you make 1% of changes in all sorts of areas in your life, like getting a better pillow, or starting to need a massage once a month, or meditating once or twice a week, or putting more vegetables in your diet, or all of them, actually all of them are better. You only need to get 1% better in a lot of different areas. It doesn't have to be rocket science. And if you do that, it's going to accumulate, and sooner, usually within months. It doesn't take long. Within months, you really start to feel the changes. And you want to challenge yourself, but maybe not as much as you've been challenged by a narcissist. You want to challenge yourself about 4%. You don't want it to be overwhelming. You don't want it to be underwhelming and bored, but about 4%. So maybe the narcissist is your cup of tea. Maybe they aren't your cup of tea. Doesn't matter. If they're more than 4%, then you need to challenge yourself in a different area, because that's way too overwhelming for you. You need to make different decisions. And we can help you do that. So if you're feeling helpless to a narcissist because they are dysregulated all the time, science says that you can get rid of your trauma and you can step into that higher self. You can connect all your brains. You can be innovative and creative only if you pause and regulate your system. And that's the way out. And once you start doing it, within months, your whole life changes, because you've changed, because you're dealing with it differently, because your stress isn't hijacking your system. So even if you're with somebody who is pure evil, you're able to stay grounded. You're able to stay present. You're able to see past the behavior to the person. You're able to see the forest for the trees, and you make better decisions, okay? So I challenge you to put this into your life. And actually, we're going to do it right after Thanksgiving. Right after Thanksgiving, we're going to do a 7-day challenge. And then in the beginning of the year, we're going to do a 7-day challenge. And then I'll invite people to a 3-month program where you can really, actually only 7 weeks. Yeah, it's only going to be a 7-week program to get these habits in their life. And I'll help people along to get these habits in their life. So the challenge is coming up after Thanksgiving. So keep your fingers crossed that you'll be a part of it. And let's get us all healthier, okay? If you need more information about me or about what I do, you can go to inspiremassage.com or ritahickmancoaching.com. They both have great information about me. And yeah, I think that's it. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. And remember, if you've got a negative thought, if you've got depression, if you've got I'm no good, or I can't do this, or even that heaviness that happens, don't judge yourself. Don't blame yourself. Just look at yourself that your nervous system is dysregulated and you need to get regulated. And the sooner the better. Because every time you come back from the brink, every time you go from fight or flight back into your rational self, every single time you're healing your body. And before you know it, a lot of your aches and pains and problems are gone because your body keeps healing itself. That's what the parasympathetic nervous system is about. It's about your body resting and repairing itself, which you can't do when you're always freaked out. Okay? So, hope you have a great rest of your day. I plan on to, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye!